That's exactly right. I think they deserved better, and I think they still deserve better than having their children or several generations removed, thinking of them in this way of slaves who were owned by other human beings, rather than thinking of them as workers who contributed a tremendous amount of value to what is today some of the most powerful countries in the entire world, like the United States, England, and others similarly situated in the international community. I think it's manifestly unjust, as I have said before, to continue to spread or to encourage the spreading or fail to discourage the spreading of the narrative to young children that any one group of human beings owned another group of human beings. Certainly, these 17 million undefended civilian workers who were forced to work without even one symbolic dollar of pay for their entire working lives for a cumulative duration of 244 years because their de facto employers, with the statutory and apparent authority of the government in which they lived and worked, um, withheld their wages for their entire working lives, even though they had done nothing wrong. I think these workers deserved better then, and I certainly believe they deserve better now, and their relatives, their descendants, their heirs, their putative um, heirs and inheritors deserve to know the history of their ancestors, or to be taught a history that is more accurate, that is more balanced, that takes into account the invaluable contribution that these millions of workers, nearly 17 million civilian workers who had done nothing wrong to deserve this kind of violation of all of their rights, their labor rights, their property rights, their civil rights, their constitutional rights, their human rights. They deserve better then, and they deserve better now. They deserve for not just their descendants, but for all of humanity, for all of the children, all of the people today who are alive and those to come, to know that they contributed invaluable uh, amounts of capital and services and goods to the world, to the earth, and not to have their history be reduced to this false narrative that they were slaves. They were not slaves because they never said they were slaves. They never agreed to be slaves. They were found in their countries free as the birds, running naked in the jungles, swimming naked in the oceans, eating natural foods and fish of the sea and animals in the jungle, fresh, organic as never before or since are enjoyed by humanity with no pollution, by the way, right? They were not slaves. People came into their countries unlawfully because there was a Magna Carta and other laws that said that you don't do this. You don't do this. It doesn't matter who you are, and it doesn't matter who the people that you are aggressing are. This is unlawful, right? And they go in there arbitrarily, extra-judicially. They take these people out of their habitations, traffic these people across the Atlantic Ocean, submit these people to a lifelong incarceration on their work sites, right? With the statutory and apparent authority of governments that remain silent, that fail to intervene except insofar as creating laws to make unlawful laws lawful, okay? And then you proceed to despeciate these people and call them slaves into perpetuity, right? Knowing better, we've created conventions subsequent to this that said that this kind of behavior is a crime against humanity. And yet we are allowing children to be taught that human beings were owned by other human beings and human beings were slaves when we said that this is a crime against humanity. We need to either teach the children the history in a way that is balanced, that is truthful, or just don't tell them anything at all, which for me would be a total disservice because it would not teach them right from wrong, and it would create the possibility that something like this could happen again on the earth in the history of humanity. And so it's something that none of us, it doesn't matter how we are packaged on this earth, none of us should ever want to happen again. But the notion that we continue to teach children, whether in our textbooks or magazine articles that are used in the classroom or videos or whatever media we're using to infiltrate this toxic idea or ideas into the minds of young children, some of whom, by the way, will grow up to be police officers and other members of the working class and the social class that have power and leadership that determine the destiny of other people. So they have a tremendous responsibility to know right from wrong, right? We continue to teach them that one group of people owned another group of people, and that these 17 million workers, approximately the equivalent of the entire population of modern day Sweden, the entire population of Armenia, plus the entire population of Jamaica, all of these modern day populations, plus the entire population of Montenegro combined, all of these people were just one reduced to a monolithic word, slave. And so somehow that makes everything okay. I just find it insupportable. I find it abhorrent. I find it just egregious. It is egregious. It is an egregious breach of the duty of care that the governments continue to have. The same governments who breach their duty of care by allowing this to continue to happen in the first place. And these are the same governments that are allowing this to continue when they fail to educate their populations in a way that this kind of narrative about one group of human beings owning another human being or one group of human beings being slaves is continuing in the classroom. We have said this is a crime against humanity. This is what these children should be taught, if anything at all. Not that anybody owned anybody, because you can't own somebody who's already inside themselves. I have said repeatedly that we are not our bodies. I am not my body. My body belongs to me. That's why we have the possessive pronoun. My body. Your body. His, her body. Their body. Our bodies. Possessive. What does that mean? My cup is not me. It belongs to me, okay? The possessive pronoun denotes possession. What that says is that every human being is a compilation, a combination of things. A body is a part of what we are. It's not all that we are. We are already inside our bodies. We own our bodies. And therefore, if a third party comes and says that they own us, whether individually or collectively, this is a problem if we never said we were for sale, and certainly if we never received any kind of compensation, consideration, or value for our possession. We possess ourselves, right? And these governments know that, right? Whether it's the United States, whether it's England, or whoever else knows that they are guilty. And therefore, I think that there is a very, very strong responsibility on the part of these governments, and I say this respectfully, to properly educate their population, in particular children, who will continue, this human race. The same human race who calls for a healthy environment on the earth, completely ignoring the psychological and mental environment that is so polluted for so many people on the earth because of this continued toxic narrative about a part of our human family. So for me, this is very, very, this perhaps is the part that is most objectionable to me, is what is being taught to children all over the world. And, beyond their need to have for restitution and compensation, etc., for the relatives of these unpaid workers, these 17 million workers who went unpaid for 244 years, who deserve their money, and their family members should inherit that. I really object very strongly to teaching children that any group of human beings owned another group and that any group of human beings were slaves. We need to change that narrative in our world.